Recording in progress.
Okay, I'll call the meeting of the Morrow County Commission to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Here it is.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda is a public comment time. And we'll call for public comments in the room and then on Zoom. So I won't go through the rules unless we have somebody that wants to comment, and then I will. So is there anybody in the room that wants to comment? Is there anybody on Zoom? Please raise your hand. You see anybody now?
No.
Okay. All right. Hearing none, we'll go on to consideration and adoption of the agenda. What do you guys?
I think that's plenty enough. Any changes, Matt?
No.
Move for adoption as presented.
A second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that takes us to our department reports, and we'll start with our Veteran Services Quarterly Report, and that's Amanda.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Kendrick from Veteran Services. In your package, you have quite a few things. You have my quarterly report that I report to the Oregon Department of Veteran Affairs, my first quarter, which is July, August, and September. Just a brief overview. Seems like every month numbers are going up. Total interviews for the quarter was 86. Brought in almost $250,000 of revenue to the county. So that's pretty good, if I don't say so myself. And then it just goes into a whole bunch of, activities that I'm doing through the community, and events that I do, a little bit of, engagements, meetings I go to, webinars I attend, just to give you an idea of what my job entails. Did you have any questions regarding that document?
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily relating to that document. I'm sure I've asked it before, but do we know how many veterans are in Morrow County, or is you limited just by whoever shows up?
Yeah, I could only run a report on what's in my actual system, and even that would not necessarily be accurate, to be honest. My system is not the best. I could click Morrow County and it wouldn't give us accurate numbers, and I see a lot of people outside of the county as well.
Yeah.
So it would be hard to answer that question. I would tell you that there's a lot more veterans in our county that are not using our services, and that is my main goal of trying to get them in. Like yesterday, I had a Vietnam War veteran who had never sought services ever until yesterday. So that is my main goal, is getting those in.
Okay.
Next one is the report of expenditures that I get from finance every quarter. So it looks like we're, right on budget for that. Looking good. Next report is very similar. It's just more of a breakdown, budget to actuals. And this is showing you exactly where the money is coming out of per line item. And I do have a little bit of a correction on this that I was corrected from finance on this. So on my cover sheet, I tried to break it down, budget to actuals. We're over on the transportation miles part, and I need to correct that. We're over on, we're getting close to being over on the miscellaneous expense, not transportation miles. Because we do not have a separate line item that we allocate to help veterans with gas. So that part is all accurate. It's just, I thought we put it to transportation and miles. It was corrected by finance. We are actually putting it to miscellaneous expense. And we're at 73.3% of our line item on that already, because if a veteran does come to us and have an emergent need of really being needy, we have helped sparsely with that in the past. And a few other items. I recently helped a veteran that his insurance stopped covering his blood sugar strips, and it was had no more strips left. So we just went out and got those real quick for him. So we help with just certain emergency type needs like that as well, and that was going to the miscellaneous expense. So I just wanted to correct that real quick. And then the other one where we are over on already is transportation and miles, and that is because more outreach. I just think we're doing a lot more outreach than has ever been done in the past. That we're going, like today I have to go to Walla Walla to get fingerprinted actually, because I have passed my accreditation test. So I am accredited through the state of Oregon now. So that goes to transportation and miles, along with all the outreach that we're doing. I went to an event in Enterprise. Unfortunately, you know, that's a long ways. But I mean, honestly, $300, that doesn't go very far with the gas prices that they are. And it just wasn't budgeted correctly. So knowing that going forward, next year's budget will be a lot more accurate. And the other part that was not in our budget was the senior center meals. That was something that came up after the budget had already been done. And that is something that I'm going to work on doing grants for. But it's something that I don't want to discontinue. It has been I think a win-win for both the senior centers and veterans. For both, Hefner was already doing an amazing thing. You know, everyone eats free over there already. So I'm covering that for Boardman and Irrigan. Veterans eat for free in both of those locations at the senior centers, regardless of their age. It is mostly seniors eating at the senior centers, but veterans can eat there for free. And it has had a wonderful turnout. I have had wonderful feedback from both veterans and the people running the senior centers. Karen Pettigrew, I've spoken to her. She said that she's seen people that she hasn't seen in years. And sometimes it's the only time they get out of their house for the entire week. Numbers have gone up tremendously, which is helping the senior centers as well. I even have some numbers in here that had gone up. Each month they're going up by like 10. Went up from 27 to 32 to 37. So that's something that I don't want to stop doing. So I will be looking for grants to continue that so it doesn't affect our budget here. And I'll be working with finance on that, just so you know. But that's all on the budget to actuals on that. And then I just included some pictures in there so you can get an idea of some of the events that I'm actually doing. That was, we had some seniors from the senior center, or not the senior center, the Irrigan High School come in to our Irrigan coffee time that we do every week. And they personally like to invite, for the assembly they had for Veterans Day, they came in to invite the veterans. And so they just mingled, had some personal interaction. They do that every year. So that was really great. That was a picture of that. And then the next two actually were the suicide awareness run that I attended that was put on by the Pacific Northwest Veterans Alliance. And I had a mental health booth that I stood there and talked about suicide awareness and promoted, the 988 line, and just gave out some swag and talked about, of course, veteran services. And that went over really well, and then provided snacks for the runners and the walkers. And so just...
Big props. It was a great event.
Oh,
She
yeah.
did great. She was the best.
She's there. So, yeah, just showing you a little bit about all the other stuff that I do as well. So, do you have any questions overall?
No question, just comment. I think that the outreach you're doing is great to get more people involved in it.
Thank you. gotten good feedback, so I will continue to do so.
I second that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Her booth was the best at the fun run.
She got some cool socks.
Yeah, and granola bars, I think, I don't know.
Well, we got a planning department local report, Ms. Tanner.
Good morning, yes, and Stephen is gonna pop on. So I have a long report because we were at AOC and we missed November. So, but I won't be the talking head because I know you are all excellent at reading your packet, so I'll summarize. Energy and data centers takes up a large chunk of our time. We don't track it like the IRS or the GAO, but it takes up a lot of time. Monday, Clint and I had a pre-application meeting with Amazon data centers, it's public information, on 3 different campuses. One is a brand new, one we've started the process, and another is to add a 5th building. Seems like easy, just over the counter sign a permit, but it's not. So just had a call at 7:30 this morning with Dan Carnes, and he's invaluable. I think we all agree he's invaluable to work through some of the nuances of those things. So the first couple pages, we talk about renewable energy projects and multiple projects going through FSEC, and we're involved in that process. Additionally, we have transmission lines, one of which is at FSEC, and have spent some time with the applicant UEC because it's going through part of the Army depot that has this complicated overlay zone. So we've had a few meetings, also including with Dan Kearns. I think we have a path forward for that. So once we reach a resolution on that, we'll either come back in the short term or wait until we have the revised application from FSEC, and that would go, the formal comments to FSEC would come under your signature. So that's been some good news. We also have this rush on siting substations, and my guess is that some of these solar projects that want to meet that new, it's not a new, but the IRS code that the governor's executive order 2525 referenced, these projects, in order to qualify for that federal, very generous federal subsidy, has to meet the turn the dirt or shovel ready test by July 1. I think they're permitting the substations are gonna start on those, and they'll say that's a component. Because that's a lot easier to permit. They can come to us and don't even have to go to FSEC for that. Just a speculation, but because we have so many, and it's unusual to be permitting a substation for a project and the project's not identified, had to do some, it is, and that transmission line's not identified, but on a legal basis, there's some case law for doing, I think we're in pretty solid grounds for doing it. So Morrow County is certainly not slowing down the process. I think we're doing our share of helping those folks along that permitting path.
For those substations, do we have any mapping for, or any record for where we could see how many we're permitting in the same way that we've got, information for the renewable projects? Do we have anything like that?
We do. Stephen has a map that Stephen, is our online renewable energy map, does it show the substations?
No, I have not put it on there yet.
Okay, there's also some sensitivity about public facing information about substations and transmission lines because of security, et cetera. We can get you that map though. Stephen has started at least an internal map.
Mm-hmm.
For one thing, there's, each data center, for example, has a substation, and each substation has its own name. So Stephen made a map for our internal tracking purposes. When it comes in, we know where substation X is located, but we can share what we do have with that.
Okay, I would appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And as you know, we've gone through a couple of code updates, and those are later, the second reading is later on your agenda. We are wrapping up the Heritage Trail Plan update, and I have to shout out to Clint. That's really his project. He's done all the administrative work. I get to just pop in when there's something to review. We met with a consultant at the end of the week last week, and we are now formally scheduling that for the Planning Commission in January. And it will be adopted as a comprehensive plan amendment. And then next, Stephen, do you wanna show your mapping project that you did with DEQ?
Yeah, from permission.
You should have that now, give it a try.
And the background on this, while Stephen's pulling it up, with the Love Guama and the water quality issue, there's been a lot of concern about the role that septic systems play and the nitrate contamination. DEQ asked if we had an inventory of septic systems or a map, and we do not. It was only in the, and they do not.
I laugh because they're the ones that regulate it and
Yeah.
issue the permits.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for catching that because we just mapped those for the agency. It's not that we're working for the agency, but Stephen and I figured it is good information for us to have also, and I think it'll be good for other parties. So I'll just hand it over to Stephen and he can tell you. We don't have an inventory of septic systems, but we do through the database, and this is where Stephen had to sharpen his pencil, we do know which parcel has a dwelling, and we made an assumption that every dwelling has a septic system if you're not inside the city limits. So here's the data, and hold on to your seat because what we revealed is really important information. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, I think it is. Okay, Stephen.
Yeah, so like Tamara said, ooh, there's a like Tamara said, so we looked at a little Guam and the whole as a whole in North Morrow County, and I pulled any zone that would support the siting of dwelling. So what's excluded here is any of the port industrial, general industrial. So you're looking at like rural residential, farm residential, and EFU. Looking at the map here, you can pull down a legend. Anything in blue has an existing dwelling. Anything that is tan color does not have an existing dwelling. The data is not 100%. I joined some assessors data to parcel data and determined which parcels had a dwelling in it. I also use satellite data to kind of correlate, make sure everything's lining up. There are some that I have not accounted for. I got to go back to those in the map. But
Stephen, could you pause for a moment?
sure.
You sound like you're underwater.
There's a really bad echo.
Yeah.
How do we address that?
I can come into that room and drive from there if that helps.
That might help if you wouldn't mind doing that.
Okay, yeah, let me do this. Actually, really bad. I'll be right there.
While we're waiting for Stephen, I'll just go ahead if that's okay, because I know you have a full docket today. I asked the whole team to add a paragraph about different projects they're working on, and then I get to be the final editor. So Caitlin Kennedy has a paragraph in here about code compliance. Oh, you don't need your laptop?
no, should be able to use this computer.
Excellent. So we're busy. We have a few really complicated cases and one code compliance case, maybe two, has the potential to lead to litigation. So I haven't checked in with Matt about that, but we may be asking for an executive session to get some policy directive on a case or two that could potentially lead to litigation. Heads up, not fear mongering, but even a code compliance case can get pretty complicated. As usual, we have a lot going on with water activities, and the map that Stephen's going to share with you is also really good information for me sometime, once we get a principal planner, to start working on the Goal 5 and Goal 6 update of our comp plan. Robin's taking care of the drinking water program. We do a fair amount of support of regional water planning. I attended with Matt. He did a really great presentation. It was very popular at the H2O EO annual meeting. That group was really impressed of how Morrow County is being proactive with looking to provide drinking water. cause he talked about the Water Coalition. The EPA grant, the Drinking Water Roadmap, I included a link to an update, so we're entering phase 3. Tomorrow afternoon, we have another steering committee meeting. It's in Hermiston at the Stafford Hansel Government Center. It's the, we're in phase 3 or stage 3, if you will. And yeah, those are public meetings. Anybody is invited to attend. And again, the meetings with the steering committee, which is really the professional academic steering committee that works with GSI on this project. So tomorrow, the theme will really be on the non-municipal connection options. So that is, that's good work.
What time is it tomorrow?
3 to 5. Yeah, I can send you,
Before you get too much farther, I have a question on the code compliance.
yes.
And maybe this is the one that you were perhaps alluding to. Part of it says, and unpermitted structures or dwellings. What do we do in a scenario where somebody has built a structure that was unpermitted? That seems like a very unpleasant situation.
It sure is. We look to find a path forward. Knock on wood, I've yet to be involved with one where somebody had to tear down a dwelling. There are some folks who might, you know, we might catch them, they've partially constructed a shop, for example. It's pretty unpleasant, but that's the ultimate. I mean, they can't pass us. And we find those either through our folks or a complaint or the building official. So if a building official drives by and they don't see their pink, you know, here's the building permit, they usually let us know and then we start the compliance process. It's not all that common though, honestly.
Okay. I just,
Thank goodness, cause,
yeah, okay, that is good.
okay, you ready?
Ready?
Share the screen.
So looking at the parcels that have the capability for dwellings, most of the zones that can support dwellings have a 2-acre minimum. So when you click on, let's go to somewhere residential. When you click on something like this in the residential area, it's going to give you the size of the parcel. And then in here, it's going to give you the potential additional dwellings. So it's 33 acres, divide that by 2, you get, the potential for an additional 16 dwellings. So the potential build out is 16. And then there's the dwelling status summary down here. So the assessor's data it's good, it's not perfect. There's a couple that did not line up with the parcel data. So that's where I went in and I looked at individual parcels off of satellite imagery and marked those as either a yes or a no as having a dwelling. It's not 100%, I'm not complete with it yet, but we're pretty close. So in here it tells you the dwelling summaries, 950 existing dwellings with the potential new dwellings of 1,697 with the total build out of 2,647. So that's a 185% increase over the current number of dwellings that we have.
And that's that's the data that I think gives me pause. We have a nitrate issue with these rural exempt wells today. We don't have the ability as a county to regulate wells or septic systems. I'm not suggesting that we want to, but we have, out of 950 existing residences, exempt wells in the Guama, we more than double that if all of those parcels were to be built out. So as planners, we're trained to look for 20-year planning horizons. What are the implications in 20 years? I don't have the answer. I'm just sharing that's why this information is really valuable to the county. Our neighbors in Umatilla County haven't done this, but the nitrate issue, it's water. It doesn't know any boundaries. So when I go to do the comp plan update, we might be looking for policies and goals to at a minimum bring that to people's attention.
So if I understand correctly, that potential build out is just with the existing zoning, there's no exemptions that have to be done, people could just go do it because they are allowed to, is that
Yeah.
correct?
In this example, sorry, Stephen's estimating out of that 33-acre parcel, we could approve a subdivision for 16 parcels. It might be 15 parcels, but at least it's a pretty good estimate. If they could meet our land partition or zoning requirements, you're exactly right, Commissioner. Yeah, they could.
It's a perfect scenario for them. If they meet all the requirements, they could get, at least 16 new potential dwellings there.
And that's not rezoning any property, and we excluded EFU.
So we excluded EFU, and the reason why I excluded EFU is it's just too nuanced. It's a case-by-case basis that we look at those. They have to meet the rights for example, for like a non-farm dwelling, they have to meet the farming standards. They have to meet the soil standards. It has to be class 7 or 8, 6 or 7 soils. So I'm not good enough of a programmer because there's some programming language behind this. I'm not good enough to go in there and pull in all those different data layers and look at that. It's an estimate.
Yeah.
It's
So,
not a 100%.
yeah, so in summary, he did not include potential dwellings on parcels that are zoned EFU, but there are some out there that would qualify.
And on the right here, I've got kind of an overview. There's some assumptions that we've made. There's, like I said, it's not 100%. There's some parcels that have multiple dwellings on them. Again, I wasn't good enough to go in there and parse those out. But there's also some dwellings that we counted, or some parcels that we counted as dwelling positive, where there's no dwelling. But that is such a small. Statistically, it's insignificant. There's like maybe 2 or 3 of those in there where it's a parcel. It's zoned correctly, but for some reason it showed positive as for a dwelling. So instead of pulling those out, I left those kind of small errors in there to account for those parcels that have multiple dwellings, and we would assume that they also have multiple septic systems. So there could be 1 parcel, 2 dwellings, 2 septic systems. It's a very rare. It's like I said, statistically it's insignificant. Mike's on the call. I don't know if Mike can talk to his estimate on how many dwellings or how many parcels he thinks that have multiple dwellings. It's something that our 2 departments are probably gonna have to talk back and forth with, and these numbers are probably gonna end up changing as I add or subtract dwelling positive parcels.
So have you shared this with DEQ yet?
Yeah, we've opened it up, and they know that it's an estimate. They know that, and but it's better than what we had. We had nothing. Now we at least have a number we can point to.
What did they think about the information?
They really haven't said.
They
haven't said anything?
Thanks for the
They
data. I don't even know
asked for it and then didn't say anything?
Thank you.
Well, asked me if I could do it for Umatilla County.
We said no.
I don't wanna-
They have their own. Yeah.
So
I said no, but Steven said no. Like no, they can do their own, and they have like 3 or 4 GIS people. So.
And I pulled enough hair out doing this that I already don't have. So.
So there is that data. And the number of existing dwellings is pretty close. I can't remember the OHA. If Robin's on the phone, she could tell you. That's pretty close to the number that OHA is also estimating. So we're in the ballpark. You would think that it's an absolute number, but Stephen just explained why, there's a margin of error in that data, so anyway, excellent work I thought Stephen did.
So you were talking earlier about some of the EFU stuff, so remind me, in Boardman, I think is the only place where we have it. Used to be small farm 40 and now we call it farm residential or whatever. Now the underlying zoning on that's EFU, right?
Uh-huh. Yes.
So if you're small farm 40 or farm residential, you can't go down to the 2-acre minimum, correct?
Correct. Without rezoning. That's
Correct.
right. Yep, that's right. And so this information also tells us if those folks wanted to rezone, and those of you who spent a decade or 2 on the planning commission, it's not easy to rezone, from EFU to residential.
Yeah.
Among other criteria, they would have to address goal 6 and because it's a water quality concern, how can we add to this?
Yeah, you'd have to take a goal 3 would be the first one, right?
The goal 3, for sure, the bar is super high on that, but let's say they pass that and this would be something they'd also have to address for
And-
water quality.
And the map takes into account for EFUs, parcels that are zoned EFU that do have a dwelling. It just doesn't do the projection for the
Projection,
EFU.
yeah.
It's way too complicated, and it's a case by case basis.
It also, I think, informs the discussion that we have had, it's been a couple of years ago, about accessory dwelling units, ADUs. It's a great housing solution, but when you have underlying water issues, that's ultimately where the board landed is, we're not gonna move in that direction, at least now.
If I'm remembering right, didn't the legislation not allow ADUs in the Lagoma?
It said in limited groundwater quality areas, yes, and we even pursued it to have it apply to areas that are not within a Lagoma, and I think there was enough pushback from others that the board voted to not allow it. We can take that up again, but this illustrates for people who might question why that decision was made or why the legislation backed out areas with groundwater quality problems. In this instance, this is also part of it in the critical groundwater area, so that's another factor. Not that,
Just to clarify, so ADUs are not allowed in the Lagoma impacted areas?
actually, we don't allow them any place in the county. We do have like a hardship mobile home or a temporary hardship in the EFU zone. You can do a temporary medical hardship even in an RV in the exclusive farm use zone. So, anyway, food for thought. We haven't posted this on our website, it's just, I think it needs some good explanation and sidebars, but it did take up a good amount of Stephen's time and collaboration on that, so I wanted to share it with you.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Oh, good, so moving on.
If the commissioners wanna see it on a more intense level, you can just stop by and I'll happy to show you.
Thank you, Stephen.
And do you see why his background in planning is so incredibly helpful when doing this GIS? He's also a very good planner, so
Sometimes.
that can go to your head sometimes. Okay,
Thanks, Steve.
yeah.
Sam, I can hand that thing. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
you need your clicker?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're kinda left you hanging there.
Sorry. So moving on, we're continuing to work on the Tower Road Interchange Area Management Plan. Started over, I know Commissioner Winholt sat on the Policy Advisory Committee. This spring, we'll probably schedule a work session with the board at my request because some of the implementation that's recommended in the Interchange Area Management Plan has regulatory and budget implications for the county. So we built some of that into the budget. Luckily, ODOT's managing that contract, so we just get to participate. We also received a grant notice last year or earlier this year through the TGM, Transportation Growth Management Program. We'll be updating our transportation system plan. It's been needing it for a while. It will be a whole TSP update. Caitlin and I met with the consultant. We went through the ODOT procurement process, had to meet federal standards, so ODOT guided that process. We ended up with a contractor, and it's public information now, so it's David Evans and Associates. We are starting work on the scope of work, which probably has to be modified and shrunk just a little bit because ODOT has a finite amount of money. And I think I've mentioned it previously, but the town of Lexington had asked for a grant as well. And they weren't awarded, but ODOT asked if we could build in a portion of their request into our program, and we said yes. I'm glad we did. It just means that we've got this big TSP update with a carve out for the town of Lexington, that they've just got so many great things going, and their city manager is involved in the process. It'll really focus on access and design for their main street, which is the highway. So we've included that. I finally got around after about 8 hours on a Saturday and went through the legislative review. It's a long list on page 7 and 8. At the moment, I don't see any code updates that we need to do that we haven't already undertaken, but a couple of them are flagged. And let's see. Attended AOC, it's always great. Saw you all there. It's excellent. We're still recruiting for a principal planner. I have one applicant. We had one, and that person found another job. He came from the East Coast, so that's not really surprising. We have one early January that we'll interview. It's been posted since September, I think. If that one doesn't work, I think Matt and Chelsea and I might come to you and say, we got to get even more creative about how we're looking for some help on that. Let's see. Clint and I took a field trip to 3 Mile Canyon Farms Dairy and saw their brand new dairy parlor like 2 days before they went live and started milking cows. It's so impressive. I think they get 100 head on one carousel. I grew up on a very small dairy farm, and when we hit 200, that was hitting it big time. And when you're pushing 40,000 heads through 3 different milk parlors, it's just amazing. It's super impressive. So. And then we had some permitting to do with their new wells and their public drinking water system. So a field trip just made a lot of sense. We could connect a lot of dots on that. So they're very gracious. Our compliance planner, Caitlin, attended the legal issues workshop. So that's a position that is leading to, it's an entry-level planner position. So that was really good training for her to take. Clint, I don't know if I mentioned it in here, Clint, along with someone from County Parks, attended the Oregon Outdoor Recreation Summit, and they do a lot of talking about trails. So that was great opportunity for Clint to see how the Heritage Trail Plan that he worked on, what those folks who are promoting and developing those systems, what that looks like. And I think that's all. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, further questions, Attorney?
No, I asked mine, so thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Okay, next up will be our Sheriff's Office monthly report. Ryan?
Chair, I've got City of Oregon raised their hand. I texted Aaron. He says he didn't know nothing that he thought to hand, but I don't have a response back to him. So I think this is an erroneous raised hand, but if you wanted to.
Well, I generally don't
Okay.
get it, huh? Unless it's a principle in what we're talking about.
So just, I'll clear that
Yeah,
up. So thanks.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
So the Sheriff's Office, where to start? So patrol, we're looking, we're kind of standing, holding strong from the last report. We have 2 openings in dispatch. All other divisions are full. We have our last patrol deputy graduating this Friday from the academy, and we do have a dispatcher who's also graduating from the academy this Friday. So that's exciting, and the staff is doing well. Kind of an update on the 12-hour shift when we went to that 3 months ago. That seems to have helped with morale and just shift coverage for sure. One of the big notes that I wanted to mention is our overtime. It has reduced our overtime by approximately 82%. We still have overtime, but some of that is, call outs and dependent on the type of situation it is, but it has definitely reduced the overtime as we were hoping and predicting. It's also reduced our sick time. We're not getting the staff calling in as often for sick leave as well. So that has been a huge improvement. And when we do have them, we still have the shift coverage. So we're still not, or we're not in a position again where we're having to lessen our hours of coverage. We're still able to provide the same amount of service. And we're getting our South County patrols in. So we've heard a few comments about that, which has been overall positive, but we're definitely getting our South County patrols in.
I saw 3 yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. I like to hear that.
None
so.
of them pulled me over, so it was a good.
Well, that's a good thing, I guess. Our capital projects, we are full swing. They're doing well moving forward. We have received our 2 new snowmobiles and trailer. They look awesome. So granted, we don't have any snow, but we've received them, and so we are geared, and our search and rescue program is set up, and everything is ready to go for when and if we get a call. So that it's a good feeling to going into this season, having the equipment, all of the equipment that we need. There's very few needs now, and they're just minor little pieces of equipment that either need to be upgraded or that we need to get, such as like a new basket that is pulled behind the snowmobile for recoveries. But overall, we're setting really good in the search and rescue program now, which is a good feeling. Our electric automated gate, it should be finished this week at ISA. They ran into a small problem, or it would have been done already. It's supposed to have been done last Friday, but they ran into a snag, which that they're taking care of, and it should be done, completed this week. Everything else has kind of been on order or in the works. And so it's just kind of waiting on that stuff there. We three things that I wanted to, I guess, point out. We were our annual Christmas party. We issued Jacob Stutzman his 5-year plaque with the Morrow County Sheriff's Office, and then Lieutenant Gina Wilson received her 10-year plaque with the Sheriff's Office. We also, as we're all aware, last month we had a double fatal that was out on Tower Road. Deputy Miguel Flores received a letter of accommodation due to his work on that case. He went above and beyond and was able to gather information, which was able to bring that case to a resolution fairly quick. At least on our part. Of course, it's in the court's hands now, but due to his thinking outside the box and eagerness to work that case, it definitely was a huge impact on that case. And so he received a letter of commendation from the sheriff regarding that. Other than that, it's busy as always. It's winter time, and I'm open to any questions.
Is it winter time?
In theory.
3 days, and then it'll turn.
Yeah, I'm kind of liking it right now, honestly. There's no snow, there's no lost hunters, there's no people. Yeah, so I'm kind of enjoying it. But I remember a couple years ago it was like this, and then we got nailed in, I think it was January, and it was awful. So we're definitely prepared and ready to go. So we hope, anyways. But I'm definitely open to any questions.
Any questions, Brian?
Is anything stand out to you in the monthly stats? Is there any trends? I always look at it and I don't think I see any, but is there anything that stands out to you?
No, some of the numbers you'll see is if you compare them to like 4 months ago, they're climbing a little bit, like our traffic stops and citations, and even some of our arrests, and that's just where those numbers are going to continue to climb a little bit. They'll plateau, but that's us being able to get our staff all solo and get them out on their own. That's going to increase. Some of those numbers are going to increase, but no big trends that we're seeing that's alarming us. It's kind of status quo.
Okay, all right, well, good.
Okay, well, thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Okay. Next up, we have our President's monthly report. She turns in a written. Jaylene online on Zoom, or maybe does she want to add anything? There's a hand up there. Mike, was there something you wanted to talk about, or?
Yeah, if Brian's still around.
I should have ran faster.
Back to your snowmobile rescue thing. I'm involved with our local snowmobile club. I'm the secretary. We have a rescue sled that we absolutely willing to share and stage somewhere down around Pittsburgh Park, maybe at our groomer shed. So maybe offline, Brian, you or a representative from the Search and Rescue Division or whatever, we can have that chat.
Yeah, that would be outstanding. We have one. It works, but having a secondary or one a little bit better equipped would be nice. So yeah, we'll definitely reach out to you maybe next week if you're open.
Absolutely, please do. Thank you.
Okay, next up would be our treasurer's report. Is Jaylene, can anybody see Jaylene on there? Usually she doesn't, just wanna make sure.
She is on.
She is. Jaylene, did you wanna add anything verbal to this, or is your written report what you wanna go?
For the most part, it's just a written report. It's catching up from being so busy with the new ERP and audit and tax season. So I know there's a lot there.
Okay, any commissioners have anything they wanna ask Jaylene? Any questions since we got her? Okay, yes, okay.
No, good.
All right, well,
Thank
thanks, Jaylene. Okay, next up, our accounts payable monthly report, Kevin, and same thing there, we have our written, anything you wanna add, Kevin?
Any questions?
We'll go with the written, and next up is our county admin.
I guess come to mind when I was reading through Jaylene's report, and maybe Kevin, since he's here, if Jaylene's still on. So we have the county fund, and then there's the other fund, I forget what it was being called. So is that basically like the special districts that put money in our custody to invest for them?
Are you talking about the LGIP, the custodial account?
Yes.
Yes, those are the districts that I am holding monies for within their own LGIP account.
Okay, so we kind of manage that for them.
Correct.
And so, I mean, we just hold on to it for the most part, I guess, with the exception of the consortium where we're actually the fiscal, the water consortium, where we're actually the fiscal agent. Everybody else, I don't think we actually manage those funds. We just act as a bank account and disperse them. Jaylene disperses them when they're requested.
Right.
Yeah, the only one that's additional duties really is the town of Lexington. I pay their bond payment.
Anything,
But-
go ahead.
So I guess, I mean, we do have staff time and resources that are supporting the other districts because of this. I mean, we have to receive the money in, Jaylene has to transfer it and report on it and track it, and then as they call, then cut the check and do all the stuff, so.
Yes.
There's an expense, what I'm getting at is there's an expense to the county to managing this.
So, and you'll want the districts to start paying for that? Is that the follow-up?
Well, it goes back to the discussion that's at the session that I know you were at AOC when they talked about, you know, how much the county do.
The county absorbs losses for other districts.
Yes,
Yeah.
through administration.
Yeah.
Of collecting the taxes, dispersing the taxes.
Yeah.
Everything else.
I
This is
guess I
just-
would add, and Jaylene, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of those duties are statutory duties for the treasurer's office in terms of, you know, if there's a district that wants to leave funds on deposit with the county, that's.
I won't dispute that,
Yeah.
because I don't know partially, but there's still the expense to the
In
county.
in some counties, they have, the treasurer's office will assess a fee that'll fund a portion of their department. I don't know if that's ever been done here.
Again, this was the session that sat in at AOC.
Any further questions?
Thanks for the information, Jaylene.
Of course.
Anything else on that subject, or any other subject with Kevin or Jaylene? Okay, next we'll go to our county admin report.
Yes, we submitted a written report. We've gotten several items that we'll be discussing today, particularly the CIP Advisory Committee. One item just to point out is we'll be doing that in a work session a little bit later today. Also at the county courthouse, we have our permits into the city of Boardman, and hopefully that'll be taken care of this next week. So as soon as we finalize bidding and such and present the final project scope and such to the council or the commission in January, we should be able to still be on schedule for the groundbreaking end of February, in March timeframe. And so excited about that. We're also working on several different items. One thing to be aware of, AOC and the governor's office is still negotiating the CFAA funding agreement for operating public mental health administration. This pretty much just passes through the county in a way, and we contract with Community Counseling Solutions, and that still has not been resolved. Supposedly that'll be taken care of before Christmas, but I haven't seen an update this week on it. We are tentatively setting up a special session right after Christmas if we need to execute a contract to make sure that funding's still available. So just to give you a heads up on that. A couple other lingering issues. Laurel Lane property that we have there right now, no action was required to proceed on that. We're maintaining that property as is. And also just an update, if you hadn't related as well, the Black Mountain Water Consortium, right now it's taken care of. County has no role in that action at this time, and they're pursuing other ventures to take care of that ownership question. So if there's anything that comes up on that, we'll let the commission know again. So just as a comment, we tentatively have scheduled a special BOC meeting on the 23rd, and we'll be finalizing that come Friday. Let you know on that. County offices are closed, of course, Christmas and New Year's Eve, and I will be out of the office on the 23rd and 24th and 26th, but still will be available by phone, text, and email.
So on the 23rd, can we make that a morning meeting?
Yes.
Because yesterday the CDA scheduled a meeting for 1 o'clock.
Ah, very good.
23rd. So.
Plan is to have it in the morning. Yes.
Any other questions? I had a quick question for you.
Yes,
Matt.
sir.
How did you rate AOC this year as far as servicing administrators? I know you guys have a fair amount of meetings and stuff.
Yeah, we
Did
have.
they give you a chance to evaluate the meeting, or?
You know, that's an interesting one because we on the flip side with the county college we get surveys and they hound you to get those surveys. We don't have that so much with the county administrator side of things. We do have several different items. We have a legislative update. We have more or less an exchange time where we can talk about pressing issues and get feedback from other county administrators. And but there isn't a feedback survey that I saw for those sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions of Matt? Okay, next up there'll be a consent agenda. Any of you guys want to pull anything out of that?
No, I'm.
Not any of you guys, either of you guys. Any of our 20 members here?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
Moved and second, pursue the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next up is public hearing. Now, I'm gonna call a short recess because we have a revised script for this, and I don't see that. I need to get that from Tamara.
Okay.
So before we start that, so I'm gonna run over there.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order, and the next up on our agenda is a public hearing for the application to amend the county comprehensive plan. They have the Doherty quarry to the Coal 5 inventory and identify the quarry as a large significant site in accordance with OAR 660 023-0180. And let's go ahead and open the meeting then, Tamara? Just go with my script.
Yes, please,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so, my opening statement. Good morning, good afternoon, morning. My name is David Sykes, Chair. Yeah, I guess she was thinking they're gonna take longer. My name is David Sykes, Chair of the Morrow County Board of Commissioners. I will be presiding over the hearing today. The Goal 5 Aggregate Resources Amendment AC 16125 Comprehensive Plan Amendment. Cliff Doherty applicant, Patricia Doherty owner. The application is to identify an existing Goal 5 aggregate resource as a large significant resource in the Goal 5 inventory. Criteria for approval include Morrow County Zoning Ordinance MCZO Article 8 Amendments ORS 215.298 and OAR 660-023-1803, 5 and 7, OAR 660-023-040, OAR 660-023-060. Persons who wish to provide testimony may do so orally or in writing. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the applicable criteria. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Please sign the sheet in the back of the room or make a note in chat if you are participating via Zoom if you would like to present testimony. Please speak only when identified by the chair and begin by giving your name, the spelling of your name, and your address. If you have exhibits for our consideration, please provide a copy to the staff. If you would like to request that the board open the record or continue the hearing, you must make that request before the public portion of the hearing is closed. This concludes the introduction. And so first off, I will ask commission members, do any commission members wish to abstain, declare a conflict of interest or bias, or have any ex parte contact on this issue? No, okay. Any members of the audience, does any person in the audience wish to request that a member of the commission abstain or declare a conflict of interest or bias, or disclose ex parte contact with a member of the commission? In the room, anybody on Zoom? Okay. So we'll start with our staff report, and I'll be Tamara.
Good morning, commissioners. For the record, Tamara Mabbitt, Planning Director. Draw your attention to the vicinity map that Stephen has pulled up. So this is a rock quarry that's been in existence many years off of Spur Loop Road. The study area that's required to be analyzed is all within the, there you go. Thank you, Stephen. That 1,500-foot impact area is on property also owned by the Dohertys, so that made the analysis pretty simple in that regard. This Goal 5 site, a couple of you may recognize this, was permitted by the Planning Commission in 2019 under a conditional use permit, both for the aggregate extraction and also for a concrete batch plant. So I included that CUP here so that 10 years from now when different people are probably around, this will, there's acknowledgement that that conditional use permit for the batch plant will remain with this quarry and they don't have to go digging in two different places. We didn't reconsider that conditional use permit, but again, it's embodied here. So back in 2019, the Planning Commission approved it as a conditional use permit with a Goal 5, understanding it was on the aggregate inventory and the comprehensive plan. And I'm not sharing all the chapter and verse, but those the requirements for this is all in OER 660 Division 23 Chapter 0180. The 2019 conditional use permit limited the extraction to 500,000 tons of material. And the applicant said, we're getting really close, we'd like to extract beyond that limitation. So the way those administrative rules work and also our code is to declare it and classify it as a large significant site, which means that they have really no limitation on the area and the volume that they can extract. And the one technical piece that is required to be submitted to be classified as a large significant site is a material testing analysis, which in lay terms, it's the only terms I really understand, it meets ODOT asphalt spec. So Morrow County has pulled rock from this quarry for years, way before 2019, and the Doherty sell it to other folks as well. Stephen, would you show your drone footage, please? Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
Yeah. So this was a site that Stephen went out with Eric Imes because one of those stockpile areas I think belongs to the county. Which one is that, Stephen? Okay, there, perfect. Okay. It's just a great illustration. This is, for a quarry site, as straightforward as we get. They always get super complicated if you have some opposition, and we had none at the planning commission level. No opposition. We provided all the notices to agencies and including Dogami, Department of Geology and Mineral Industries. They did not provide a comment, but they are in their permitting system. So this just allows them, again, to extract more than the 500,000 ton limit. One thing we discovered, I think Stephen discovered, we run it through our mapping system. There is, believe it or not, a designated floodplain that goes through this property. So are you able to pull that up, Stephen? I think we included that also in your packet. But the good news is they've been operating in this quarry for a long time. There's a culvert system that allows any drainage to continue. So I felt like with just a condition of approval that says they will continue their operation and not obstruct the floodplain, that we did not need to send them through that super complicated environmental habitat review for a new permit in a flood zone, because this is not a new permit, we're just adding it to the Goal 5 inventory. The FEMA folks and the Oregon counterparts were notified just in case they didn't agree with that interpretation and had no response from that.
Lots of times you look at these flood things and you kind of shake your head based off of the pictures that Stephen showed earlier. It looks like there's a road lower than that, and like where the rock is stockpiled, it is where the floodplain is, and it's higher than the road level. So how is that a floodplain? You know,
I don't know, and I think the applicant Cliff Doherty's on the call, and you can ask when he speaks, but
just
it did have, it's one of those areas that's probably prone to flash flooding, and then when you get a downpour, you might have a gully washer and then it's all gone. I don't know, some of the flooding I've seen up in Washington, those places you'd think are not at all prone, those flood maps are pretty accurate. And it might be a 1 in 100 chance, right? That's why they call it a 100-year floodplain. So I think the good news is we navigated that regulatory piece well for them. So the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval, and that's really my staff report unless you have questions.
Okay, anybody have questions of staff?
No.
Okay, well, next we'll invite the applicant and proponents to provide testimony and evidence. Is the applicant want to provide in attendance and want to provide any testimony? Is there anyone else who wants to provide testimony in favor of this?
So Taylor just went off mute.
I unmuted her
Oh,
just in
good.
case, but
Do we have hands up? Raise your hand if you want it. See any? Anybody? No? Okay, any opponents that want to testify, either in the room or on Zoom? Raise your hand. Okay. Any neutral testimony? Okay. Anyone would like to continue the hearing or hold the record open? No? So I'll close the public hearing and the BOC will deliberate. You can continue to ask questions of staff during our deliberations.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
So do I. So I'll make the motion to approve the application as follows. So that's, we're gonna approve the Doherty Goal 5 application, including 1, adopt the findings. 2, include the aggregate site as a large significant site in the list of Goal 5 significant aggregate resources in the comprehensive plan. 3, apply the aggregate resources overlay zone to the quarry area boundaries. And 4, acknowledge that the conditional use permit for the concrete batch plant remains unchanged and may continue.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Also on these hearings, we need for Valerie, if you could call for a roll call.
Oh.
Just
Oh.
Commissioner, just ask each commissioner and then they tell you how they voted. So it's, there's a
Can
verbal record.
Commissioners, can I get your votes?
So,
Commissioner
So-
Peterson?
aye.
Yeah, you say what your name is. That way
Okay.
it's just not a. Sykes, aye.
Holtz, yes.
Okay. Okay, I guess that will conclude that.
And Chair, I think the applicant knows this, but we'll come back to you in 2-ish weeks on January 7th for the second reading of the adopting ordinance.
Okay.
And that may be the fastest Goal 5 aggregate site we've ever processed. Thank you.
We want them all like that, right?
Yeah,
Tammy?
for
Okay.
sure.
All right, with that, we move on to our business items, and the first one up, the adoption of Morrow County Public Health Modernization Plan. Robin.
Good
Hello.
Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning. How's everyone? For the record, Robin Kennedy, Morrow County Public Health Director, and I brought Sarah Ray with me today, my CD FEP, so Communicable Disease and Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coordinator. And she's done most of the heavy lifting on developing this plan. We've worked on it a little bit together, but she's gonna just kind of present a little bit of an overview, and then if you have any questions, we're open to it.
Yeah. So I was just gonna give a brief overview of what modernization is, because it's kind of a vague, brief, confusing term. So public health modernization is Oregon's statewide effort to ensure every county has the core capacity to consistently deliver essential public health services, regardless of size or location. Under Oregon law and Oregon Health Authority guidance, modernization focuses on ensuring all counties can provide foundational public health capabilities, including communicable disease prevention and response, emergency preparedness and response, environmental health protections, health equity and culturally responsive services, assessment, data surveillance and epidemiology, policy development and public health planning, health communications and community engagement, prevention and access to clinical preventative services. Modernization has been around for about 10 years. And so before modernization, services varied widely by county. Smaller and rural communities often had limited staffing, relied on temporary or contracted services, and lacked stable funding for required services. And modernization was created to reduce these gaps and ensure consistent public health protection statewide, faster response to outbreaks and emergency, and better access to services for rural, low-income, and historically underserved communities. For Morrow County, modernization supports stable funding for essential services, helps build and retain a qualified public health workforce, improves preparedness for wildfires, extreme weather events, and disease outbreaks, strengthens equity, access, and regional collaborations. And this modernization plan is required for our PE 51, which is the modernization funding, and outlines what Morrow County Public Health would need to fully meet all foundational public health capabilities. And this plan basically serves as like a wish list of how we would meet all modernization requirements if adequate funding were available. So they explained it in one of our meetings when we were putting this together is if you guys won the lottery, how would you meet and exceed all of these foundational capabilities?
If funding was unlimited, yeah. But, so were you able to read through the plan?
Yeah, but if funding was unlimited, I feel like you should have had even bigger goals.
I mean, we could have done a lot more, but this was based, we had to base it off of our 2023 cost and capacity assessment that we did.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
So there was an actual ceiling.
yes.
Yeah, my first question, Robin said I can only ask two, so you guys have to ask.
You can ask as many as you like.
For these, is there a priority list for if you had a generic grant that you could apply? Where would you apply it first based on this plan? Because most of it seems funding would be coming from a very specific, grant or funding mechanism. But if we had an open funding, apply it where you will, what would we do?
Yeah, I thank you for that question, and I've kind of thought about this, and Sarah and I've had some discussion about this, and it really kind of depends on what's happening in the county at the time, is kind of where our priorities are gonna be. It's hard to have a crystal ball and say, well, this is where our priority is gonna be, because this is what's gonna happen, and then there be a big outbreak of some sort. Of course, our priority is gonna shift. So I think that would kind of be my answer to that question, if that answers your question, or do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that. So, like she said, it depends on where we're at. So if we notice Morrow County is growing, which means our communicable diseases, as you're probably see in our quarterly reports, they're growing. And as we get more people, unfortunately, they're going to continue to grow. And so, if we see a huge uptick in communicable diseases, then it might be the CD person moved to a full-time CD person instead of just
getting some help in that department.
Or getting some help. If we are seeing a huge uptick in like foodborne illnesses, possibly bringing environmental health instead of contracting with Umatilla County, bring it here and have our own dedicated environmental health. If we notice that we're starting to lack in equity, we could do the modernization coordinator that could really focus on just equity across the board. So it kind of depends on where we're at in the community when we receive that funding.
If it was right now, where do we need it? That's my second question, so I guess I'll go.
If it was right now,
We're right now, probably
we could probably still do communicable disease.
I'm thinking,
Just because, where I am the CD person and the FEP person, if we had somebody that was solely just CD and solely FEP, we could do a lot more with like planning for public health emergencies and doing exercises and more planning stuff. Hopefully we don't have any more public health emergencies like COVID or anything like that, but
that's not your department's reason for existence.
yeah.
Right, yeah. So communicable disease prevention, especially like educating people and trying to prevent as best we can.
Okay, those are my questions.
What other questions do you have for us?
Well, I think you kind of answered as I was reading through there, all the requests for additional positions and stuff, start adding up. Okay, well, this is how much money, and I was thinking, well, I'm hoping that, you're looking for grants and the state's gonna provide the funding for this, but you kind of answered that then.
Yeah, and like Sarah was mentioning, our Morrow County is growing and we want it to be growing, but we want to be able to keep up with that growth too. So that's kind of part of modernization too. So.
And I think they're at the end of their initial 10 years, and I think what they're kind of doing with these plans is looking at them and seeing where counties across the state have said that they have needs and looking at that to put towards future funding.
You reached your allotment, so.
Yeah.
Or did you manage to squeeze two of those together? I don't know, you looked like you were doing a pretty good job. I thought you were gonna get two of them together. Okay, any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
So is it getting adopted then? There doesn't
Yes,
need to be a
we-
motion for that,
I-
it's just
I will make-
assumed that that's happening or?
I will make.
Cause
a
that's what
motion
we have to
make-
report to the state, that it's
Yes.
been adopted.
I will give you what you need for the state.
Oh, okay.
I move that we adopt the Morrow County Public Health Modernization Plan for 2026-2027 as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for the discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
ongoing support for public health, I appreciate it.
Next up is our second reading of ordinance to amend zoning ordinance implementing changes to new farm and forest rules and amend other sections of the zoning ordinance, and that's Tamara, it's back.
Yeah. So this does not need to be in a, it just needs to be in a public meeting, not in a public hearing. So Clint is here today. The first item is to have the second reading of ordinance 2025-03 to amend the Morrow County zoning ordinance to implement new Oregon administrative rules for the farm and forest lands, also a minor amendment to our flood hazard zone and some other housekeeping measures. So if you have questions, we're here to answer. That's all.
Any questions?
So this was, again, and I'm trying to find it in here. I was reading through there, last time we talked about, I think it was number 20 or something, the formatting. And it had to do with combined animal feeding, I think.
Oh, yes. So first of all, Clint Shoemake, Planning Department for the record. Yes, that was the question where it didn't look right and I thought perhaps Microsoft Word had just messed with the formatting, is that correct? Yes, I did go back and confirm that that was the case and that did come out cleanly when you showed the final copy.
Okay, because I'm just going off of what was here.
In the packet. Yeah, absolutely.
In your final copy, it shows. Okay.
Yep, the red lines just kind of made it look funny.
That was it.
Okay. The planning commission unanimously recommended this, didn't they?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Do I hear
Go for it, Jeff.
So do we have to, all we have to do is do the reading, right?
The title.
Do you have the title?
It's on, I'm not sure what page it's on. Wrong one now.
Page 186 of the packet.
Okay. Thanks, Valerie. Let me get there.
I can give it to you too.
Almost.
Okay.
Okay, so do we have to make this as a motion?
Yes, please.
So I'll move to adopt, ordinance number ORD 2025-03. It's an ordinance amending the Morrow County zoning ordinance to implement new Oregon administrative rules for farm and forest lands and amend the flood hazard overlay zone and adopt other minor amendments. County file number AZ-159-25.
I second.
moved and seconded for the discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Okay, thank you. And next up would be our second reading of ordinance to implement new solar sighting standards.
Okay, thank you very much, and this is the second reading of an ordinance that, ordinance amendments you unanimously approved 2 weeks ago. These will implement the new Eastern Oregon solar siting rules that were adopted by the Land Conservation and Development Commission. That become effective January 1, 2026. Our local file number is AZ-160-25. For the record, if folks online are curious, this our amendment was specifically made so that our code allows both the existing section 38 and OAR 660 as well as the new section 44. So there's two permit path options at the local level. Dan and I were concerned if we didn't make this action and we just allowed those rules to become effective January 1, there might be some confusion or challenge to the fact that we explicitly wanted both options to be available. That's all I have.
Okay, any questions of
Not for me.
on the suggested motion,
Oh.
it says approve ordinance, should it be a little longer than that and name the ordinance?
I'll go ahead and do the same thing that
Please, I mean,
Commissioner Winholtz
you
did.
know, it makes it that way when you do search it, and then there's no ambiguity on what.
Yeah.
You know, okay.
So I move to approve the second reading of ordinance NO.ORD-2025-04, an ordinance amending the Morrow County zoning ordinance to implement new Eastern Oregon solar siting rules adopted by the Land Conservation and Development Commission, county file number AZ-160-25.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you.
It's so simple. There was so much work that went into that, and you guys, but thank you.
It's the second reading.
It is the second reading.
You ought to at least
You're
get a
still
little
up. You're
more,
not done.
take more time and make it
I know,
more
I'm
difficult.
not. No, you have plenty of work.
All right.
Tamara, you're still
No,
up.
we
You're still up.
appreciate your work on that.
Oh, the planning commission appointment, okay. I thought it was
Unless you
you.
don't want a planning commission.
No, we do. Yes,
Okay,
thank you about that.
Final one for Tamara, I think, this is appointment to planning commission.
It is, yes, if the boards would oblige, we're asking you to appoint 2 people to the planning commission. We had 2 terms that do come up at the end of this year, December 31, 2025. We advertised in the paper, which is our protocol, to see if anybody else was interested in those positions. We did not, but luckily, the 2 planning commission members have asked to be reappointed, and that's Carl Smith from Boardman and Elizabeth Peterson from my own.
Do I hear a motion?
Well, I'll move to reappoint Carl Smith and Liz Peterson to serve another term on the Morrow County Planning Commission.
I second.
Moved and second, any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Now you can go.
Yeah, I have one more item, but.
Okay, next up is our approval of NCPT 2026 Morrow County Public Transit Service Update Recommendation. Stephen.
Good morning.
How are you
Good
doing?
morning.
Well, I'm here for 2 things, but to start off the service changes. So our goal is every year to kind of modify service based off trends we see, patterns, growth of the community. Never to make a change like the one I did when I originally came in, more to modify routes. So in January, with your guys' approval, we're hoping to make some small changes to the 3 deviated fixed routes that we already have running. Internally, we're kind of calling this the more service through better planning, not bigger budget, because each of the routes will be providing more opportunity for residents to get to and from the locations that are the most busiest from us without costing any more budget from my budget. I like to say the same word twice apparently. But so it's gone to the TAC, it's been approved unanimously through the TAC. What it does is our Morrow route on the south end, instead of making 1.5 trips to Hermiston and Boardman a day, we'll be doing 2. So we'll have an opportunity for people twice daily to get up and back into Hermiston, and then from there either connect to Boardman if they need to get to Boardman. Our Rojo route, which is our North County connection to Umatilla County, it currently has 2. It would have 3 opportunities daily to go through. In addition, we'll be picking up some areas that we're not servicing. Currently, we're just kind of deadheading down 730 till we get to Irrigan every day from Boardman. Because we've modified the routes a little bit, we'll be able to go into on 8th Street to pick up the Green Acres RV Park, which are people who need often public transportation, and then go down Columbia Avenue, which supports several other kind of low-income housing communities. So instead of just kind of having an empty bus running between Boardman and Irrigan, we now have an opportunity to pick up potential passengers in those areas. And then the last change is we're starting it's not a demonstration route. We've been doing it for 2 months now, but once a month we'll be operating a route that's specific from Ione to Heppner. So anybody that is isolated in Ione without transportation or a support network has an opportunity to get to Heppner, whether it's the Morrow County South, South Morrow County Seniors Matters Lunch, or post office, grocery store. There's just an opportunity as we to support that community while we investigate better and ways to kind of have a more more frequent service coming from Ione. So without, I guess I'm seeking approval that we can move forward with these recommended changes to start in January 5th.
Any questions, Stephen?
So you mentioned, and I apologize that I wasn't at your TAC meetings, but so you mentioned that the TAC has approved these changes in routes and.
Correct, yep.
So I guess the one thing is, I guess that they've changed. I know the couple ones that I had attended before, they were always hyper focused on getting the workforce to and from work. And when I look at these, that they aren't matching up with those times, so they've changed what they're wanting to focus on, or.
Yes and no. No, there's still a want for the workforce. So our STIF money, which is our primary grant that operates our transit, is a carryover from STF funds that specifically need to be utilized for low-income seniors, disabled individuals. It doesn't mean you can't pick up other individuals, but we are required to support those individuals as well. Our budget would either allow, as it stands, to do the 3 routes we're doing, or to only do a workforce development. I put numbers together, shared it with the TAC. I can forward to you guys to operate at the hours that would support the port the best. Essentially a 5 to 8 schedule, 5 a.m. to 8 schedule. I would need a little over $500,000 a year, plus 2 additional vehicles and 3 staff. So it'd be almost 2/3 of my annual budget.
And that would just be for that, nothing else.
That wouldn't include like OFI or 3. That's just the cost of adding those miles. Essentially, we did it from picking up at McNary, kind of running down 730 through the port, throughout the day.
So kayaks, since they've started coming into Boardman, are they been able to fulfill some of that need?
Yeah, so kayak right now, from my understanding, when I did the original service changes, they essentially now just run from Hermiston into Yergan and then through the port.
Okay.
We typically see their buses when they are empty, right? Because they've gone through the port and then they're holding over in Boardman and then coming back. I've spoke to Eric and I shared with him we always work back and forth on what our changes are gonna be. Their route hasn't been productive and I don't know if it will stay in their agenda, but once again, they're not working it's almost impossible unless you're gonna have a route going every hour to catch every shift. Because every facility has different start time. Some are working 8, some are working 10s. So it really needs to be, if you're gonna have a workforce development route, it needs to be something that you're supporting from the beginning of the day, not at the end, not peak hours, because each of them have different peak hours. So it's certainly somewhere we want to be, and in fact, right now that we've done the allocation of what the costs would be, when ODOT opens up their discretionary funds, which used to be what we had that went from South County to the port, my goal would be to try to get those funds back to create this route. But we can't do it with the funds that we currently have. And still support the groups of individuals that we're required to support.
Thanks for the information. So unless anybody else has any questions, I move to approve the 2026 Morrow County Public Transit Service Update recommendation to go into effect January 5th.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you,
Okay,
Stephen.
Stick around.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Nothing like saying that you need money to do service, then ask that you terminate a contract and give money back.
Let me read the business title so everybody knows what we're talking about. Approval to terminate ODOT grant agreement number 35339 funds for transit facility.
Yeah, so in 2022, prior to me arriving, the county went out to get It's essentially a 4-phase process to get a transit facility built. When I came on, there was the issue with like the NEPA study and the land purchase that hadn't been done in the correct order. Because NEPA for land development is at approximately an 18-month wait period to go through the NEPA process to the federal government, this grant will expire before we could get to that process. So instead of losing the money both for us and ODOT, I'm asking to terminate the contract so we can give it back to ODOT, who already has someone else that's ready to use that money. So it was approximately $200,000 with a $50,000 match for each of the years that it was being utilized. But at this point, it's, for lack of better words, it's just wasted funds, unfortunately, for the county.
Just one. Will ODOT remember the favor?
It will keep us in good graces, right? I don't know if it's a quid quo pro type scenario. I'm sure it's not.
Well, I am sure it's not, but I would like to think that at the very least it shows that we are conscious of our funding and that we want to be good stewards of it. And I would hope that at least carries some weight.
That's been my conversations, right, and getting it back and having conversations with Matt. You know, when we first decided that this is probably the best avenue because, yeah, let's make sure it gets utilized and it's not just federal money that gets lost altogether for the state of Oregon, right? It's money that can be supported somewhere.
So hopefully ODOT remembers, but I think it's the right thing to do either way. So as much as I don't like doing it, I move to terminate our ODOT grant agreement number 35339, funds for a transit facility.
Second.
Moved and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is a Morrow Umatilla joint letter to Oregon Department of Agriculture regarding new reporting rules and requests for more research and data.
Well, I loaded this on Civic Clerk, but I think Commissioner Peterson can.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and speak to it. So these are rules developed by the Oregon Department of Agriculture for the La Guama. There was a hearing last night? Monday, whatever, recently. And this is just an opportunity for us to submit written comments as a county on the rules that are proposed. This letter, it was a joint effort between Umatilla County and us, and I helped write this. Essentially, we're highlighting that this is there are good aspects to these rules, but there are some holes. And what I brought up particularly at the hearing is that I don't see anything that gives us data for what the results are for the rules. And I think that's a problem. I would love to be able to get to a point in 10 years where we can say that the rules did something or they didn't. And as they currently stand, we're not really gonna have a specific measurable target that tell us whether or not the rule succeeded. So Umatilla County has already signed this letter, so this would be a joint letter between us and Umatilla County. That's my intro.
Here's the.
Any questions or comments?
So the only comment I had, maybe it was me, the way I read it, or the second paragraph, the last sentence. It says, without relevant data and meaningful scientific analysis, our counties will continue to struggle with statistically significant measurable improvements in environmental quality. And as I read this, and again, this is maybe just me, it seems the continued struggle with statistically significant measurable improvements. You know, would it be a struggle to achieve statistically significant measurable improvements in environmental quality?
The lack thereof, yeah.
The way I read it just seemed clunky to me, but
It is a little clunky. I'm not gonna disagree with you on that, but I don't think we can edit
because Umatilla County's already
signed it. But so if you're okay with it as it is, even if it's clunky,
yeah, I'm fine with it.
okay, duly noted. Next time, make it less clunky.
If we were the first ones, then
Yes.
I would push them to change it, but if they've already signed it.
Okay, well, I'm in favor of supporting our local agriculture, so. I guess,
So I will make the motion to approve and sign the attached letter.
I second.
move to second it, further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Clunky as it is.
Alrighty. Next up is our consideration of approving fairgrounds projects for grants. Matt, that's you.
Commission, this is a request for approval of projects for use of a specific grant that's administered by Business Oregon. This was brought up on December 3rd and lacked sufficient background to provide the board to make a determination, so we have gotten that information. What we have is this grant expires originally at the end of February. We do have documentation here that they are willing to extend that into April with a written request, which I've held off to do until after we get board approval. With the write-up on this is for grants for fairgrounds projects. You'll see that there are 2 emails from Bonnie Kirkpatrick, our contact with Business Oregon, authorizing and the distribution of the projects based on them being capital improvements to the fairgrounds. We also have the email kind of outlining the procurement documentation and such on this grant, as was a question that the board brought up on the December 3rd meeting. And so we have, we would like your approval to pursue these projects. 2 of the projects, the Sheep Show Ring Shelter and Arena Wall improvement, have already received approval and now will be fully paid through this grant. We have more or less 5 other projects that we'd like to proceed with. We feel confident that we can get those out to bid today or tomorrow, that we could accomplish these in the required time frame. We will be bidding these. These numbers that are listed on this did not take into prevailing wage. We are putting out the bids to include consideration for prevailing wage. And if we have to scrub one of these projects to make sure we spend the full allotment of the grant, we will. And so we're asking for your approval. The other attachment on this was the actual grant document that we have here. And so we're asking for the board's approval of the grant project and direction to proceed with the RFPs using the prevailing wage standards. So with that, just open up to any questions that the board might have on this consideration.
Okay, any questions or not on this?
I don't have any.
Okay,
So I'll move to approve the revised fair grant project list and direct staff to proceed with projects using prevailing wage procurement requirements to prepare the necessary budget adjustment.
I second.
moved and seconded for the discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, board.
Okay, thank you. All right. Oh, okay, we're down to our last business item, consideration of request support facilitation costs for the Guam Advisory Committee. And that would be Commissioner Peterson.
It's in your packet, pretty straightforward. We have a request to support the facilitation costs for the La Guama Advisory Committee. The total cost is, very cheap. It does have a range depending on who the La Guama Advisory Committee decides to go with. But either way, it's still not very much. I think it's a worthy endeavor because I would say the group as a whole gets along, but having a facilitator is absolutely worth the amount that we would pay for, from my perspective. So,
If I recall, it was somewhere around $2,000 was going to be our share.
yeah, for 2 years. So.
Any other?
So not related specifically to that, but the La Guama, there had been several months ago questions about it's kind of suspended or something, or the state. So what is the status of the La Guama committee now?
So I think it was.
I
Oof.
don't know if Trevor wants to weigh in on that. But no, I don't want to interrupt you, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Go
no, I think it was in question as to what our specific role was going to be. But as far as I can tell, and I don't have as much experience as Tamara, so she can back me up or correct me if I'm wrong. We are continuing in our advisory role, and the state is continuing to listen to us, and they do want us at the table, and that's where we're at.
Okay.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a little bit uncertain because we just enjoyed 2 years of like a full-time facilitator or at least enough time to fully handle the administrative, organizational functions, and I'm not sure how that will transpire moving forward. And you probably remember the previous LebGuama was based on all volunteer members and a tiny portion of an FTE out of DEQ. One of the scientists, smart guy, but running a committee was other duties as assigned, and it kind of fell by the wayside. So I think it'll be interesting to see how we move forward with just this modest staffing capacity. But I think it's important to be at the table, to continue to stay at the table, because the state's in the process of implementing the nitrate reduction plan. So those administrative rules that you just adopted comments for, that's a portion of what Department of Agriculture is doing. And honestly, if we don't stay involved, then the state kind of drives the process, and it's really a local issue.
What's the saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu?
Is that it could be? Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
So they're tedious meetings, my gosh, it feels like progress is
Yeah.
painfully slow.
They're not my favorite, but I think it's important that at least we maintain our space at the table.
Oh,
Yeah.
no doubt. I'll move to approve the continued participation of the facilitation support services for the LebGuama Advisory Committee. Direct staff to engage with the document as necessary for the county's participation in the service.
I will second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, with that, we'll go on to correspondence. Valerie, got anything
No
for us?
correspondence.
Then we'll have commission reports. You got it?
So I mentioned that earlier that yesterday was the CDA meeting. One of the things was we elected a new chairman effective 1st of January. Port Commissioner Joel Peterson will be the new chairman of the CDA. John Schaefer will continue as the vice president or vice chairman. Then of significance is that next Tuesday we are meeting, and supposedly we will be ratifying or approving the settlement agreement with Umatilla County on the lawsuit, so that property can be transferred and maybe things can start happening out at the CDA property. The litigation is supposed to be all but done, and the agreements are made, and they're supposed to get it to us, and that was the main reason to have a special meeting next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, okay. Well, I really hope that follows through.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
And I think I'd reported to you guys that at the last CDA meeting that, in order to get this to move forward, everybody did agree that they were gonna pay their 20% share of the litigation costs that the CDA had incurred.
Okay.
And unless you guys say otherwise, we'll be signing off on.
I want it to move, so it's
everything's supposed to be as you have seen before.
Yeah, okay, good.
Anything else?
Nope.
Let's see, I guess I attended the Oregon Business Summit convention down in Portland, which I've gone to the last couple of years. If you were looking for an updated or uplifting report, I can't give it to you. This is I really enjoy this summit because it has a whole bunch of really top-notch business people there, people who, from all big businesses in Oregon, have experience outside Oregon, inside Oregon. The governor gave the keynote address, have members of the legislature there. It's really a good, but last year, I think on the scale of Oregon's familiar or acceptance of business, I think we're 38, if I remember right. I think this year we're at 47. We're losing people. A major, I gotta get his name here. He was really a good speaker. He owns a big construction company. He was born and raised in Portland. He does jobs all over the United States. Big corporation. He says he likes Portland, stays here. He says we are the worst state to do business. And taxes and red tape rules. He said, and I heard that over and over and over again. He can't get any of his top people to live here. His chief financial officer, his COO, everybody, they all live somewhere else. Anyway, certain people promise to work together, but I listened to all of it, and I think I don't see a common goal. I just don't see it. I mean, I think if you're going to have people say, okay, we're going to work together to get here, I think it requires, okay, what is the goal we want here in Oregon? And then people can, they're going to have differences. They're going to work around it. They're going to, punch each other around and so forth. But they have a common goal. That's the most important. I don't see one. I just see, certain areas of the state with totally different goals than other areas of the state. So I'm sorry for the negative report, but like I said, every year it really dropped this year. All the benchmarks dropped. So that's my report. Anything you got?
No, I guess the only thing I have to follow up on that is I went through the Ford Foundation's Oregon rural data for 2025, and that's really great. And rural Oregon is growing way faster than urban Oregon. And I think that there are opportunities for us, given kind of what you just highlighted, to be an escape valve, a pressure release valve for folks who are looking to move out of some of those places where the pressures are just too much right now. So
okay.
There's a positive thing.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to say taxes are statewide, whether you're rural or state regulations are statewide. And those are the two big things I heard coming up. The complete report they gave is posted on their website. And it's not real long and it's real clear. It's a great report. It tells where we were at last year. And so I recommend, if you're really interested in
reading that up,
getting depressed, read it. Okay. Anything you got?
No, that's it. I'm good.
With that, we will move on to our executive session. So I'm going to right now I'm going to adjourn this meeting for a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll open it up and go into executive session.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'll call the meeting of the Morrow County Commission back to order. And we will now be preparing to go into executive session. Morrow County Board of Commissioners now meet in executive session pursuant to RS 192-6602D, which allows the commission to meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiation. It says here represented the news media, but they aren't, so I'll skip that. All members of the audience are asked to leave the room, represented except for those that are been invited. Forget the news media. No decision will be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome audience back into the room. And there is potential for a decision or action item as a result of the executive session. So with that, I'll call us into executive session. Okay, we're back in open session. Is everybody back in the room?
Yes, there's City of Oregon City Manager is still under joining, so it might just be a connection issue.
Okay, we're ready?
Yes.
Okay,
Recording has started.
Recording has started.
all right. Got it ready, motion there, right?
Okay, yes.
Okay,
I move that the county make an exception to its policy in the case discussed in executive session in order to, number one, pay any overtime wages that would have been due represented sergeants under the prior practice that was the status quo of their working conditions at the time they unionized and as a part of maintaining the legal status quo. And two, maintain that exception and practice for the future until either collective bargaining agreement with the sergeant union is ratified or the county has been able to provide their union notice and opportunity to bargain over proposed change to the practice. And that the county administrator and or the appropriate department be authorized to take all actions necessary and appropriate to implement this motion.
Second.
been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. All right. I think that brings us to the end of our business. Just for everybody's knowledge, we do have a work session. I don't have that title in front of me. We're gonna talk about the capital improvement plan. Yeah, so we have a work session at 1:30 if you wanna come back and hear about the capital improvement plan. There won't be any action taken, but that's next up on our agenda. So with that, any other business? Call the meeting adjourned.